A very strange thing happened to me last night. I was lying awake in bed and I, as most normal human beings do, they check their Facebook page, they check their phone, yeah, like around 2, 3 a.m., everything on my Facebook page just basically went right wing. um, and now look, I don't want to go into details, but I mean, everything on my page or on everything that I saw turned into this like, kind of close to alt-right movement type of stuff. And it got me to thinking about the way things get, like say Trump talking about, you know, the Muslim Brotherhood being categorized as a terrorist organization. Uh, it's funny how, you got to be very tiptoey and very careful around certain things because it works both ways, right? You have some validity to some points and no validity to other points, but there's like this connective tissue that just basically validates both on depending on which side you're on. So, say for instance that Trump, got his way and the Muslim Brotherhood was declared a terrorist organization. Essentially, what would happen will be that an illegitimacy to U.S. understandings of what Muslims are, what Islam is. Like, I mean, and there will be this animosity towards the U.S. based on the way people perceive that act of declaring the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Now, I don't agree with, in a very broad sense, I don't agree with the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't think Islam has any place in government at all. But then again, I don't think Christianity does either. Um, but I mean, Islam being such a hot topic these days, especially considering Trump, uh, there's there there's there needs to be kind of a, a kind of re-examining of the issue of religion, of Islam, of religion in general, but especially of Islam. Especially considering that we've been in countries where they're now desperately trying to rebuild if they can rebuild at all, and we're looking at basically definitions even to this day, like even after we've defeated ISIS, and we're still looking at definitions of what radicalization is, like how do we define these things. So, and I think the original problem was we never really defined these things because there was a lack of interest in talking about these things. People who have generally talked about these things have been like beaten down and thrown out with the garbage. Um, they've been seen as basically cruel and unjust, and I know Trump has his supporters, but that's where the whole conflation word comes in, and you there are just some things that you cannot talk about. It's weird that the right seems to have this monopoly, and I am using that word, the quotation marks, monopoly on free speech. It's such a shame that people think that free speech is now a right wing mandate. It's a shame. It's a huge shame, and you end up with groups like Antifa and like the way there's this kind of like this bizarro fascism that happens. Um, so it's very important that we discuss these things, that we talk about these things. It's really important. I'm not the best example of a person that should be talking about this stuff, but I feel it important that everybody gets their voices heard, that people say what they want to say. There are limits. I mean, in Canada, we're dealing with the possible comeback of Section 13 of the Canadian Human Rights Act, and uh, and I know that's going to cause a lot of issues. I mean, I don't know that my website's going to be umbrellaed under that whole dealie that they're doing. But I gotta say that, if it gets to a point where uh, where potential victims can basically say, well, because of anything stated about anything, it makes me feel unsafe. You're talking about like a very, it's almost like Pakistani blasphemy law, right? Like, I mean, you're talking about a misuse of the law, like a misuse of 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 what the law was meant to do. But I gotta say that all the people that that basically testified at the committee hearing, basically imams and priests and everything, they said that freedom of expression and freedom of speech should be protected. But I feel like Section 13 should not make a comeback in any, maybe in some different form, but I'm not saying it should just come back as it was. I feel there's potential for misuse. Anyway, that's all I want to say. These days I've been really discombobulated. I received David Benatar's book, Better to Have Never Been. I'm gonna try to, get that read. Um, and even antinatalism is a distasteful idea, but to almost every person on the planet Earth. But I think it holds some water. I don't know how to move forward with it just yet, but I've been watching other YouTubers and the way they talk about antinatalism, and I'm seeing some real interesting things. I'm seeing the ways people can talk, all the different weird little things that people can talk about when it comes to antinatalism. For me, the first thing that's popped up that I thought was really interesting was the fact that we already do antinatalist things. Like we already have birth control and family planning and abortion and stuff. But you've heard this stuff all before. Anyway, that's all. Bye.